Throughout the entire universe of starrail, it is known that if you're willing to go through great lengths and risk unimaginable sacrifices, you can seek the IPC for great rewards. In particular, the IPC's Strategic Investment Department, which is a department ruled by the 10 Stonehearts, with Diamond as their head. They are holders of the cornerstones of preservations and are directors of high caliber within the IPC. In here, you may find what you're looking for, and so much more. For a lender known as Jade is amongst the Stonehearts. But you must be very careful when you make any deals here, for you may be getting way more than what you initially had bargained for. Everything has a price. All holds value on the eye of the beholder. And as such, even those with very little to lose, physically speaking, may be eligible for huge leverage in order to make massive trades. From those that are well off to people in dire straits, all are accepted in these negotiations. Just know that, should you decide to become her client, be prepared to pay the ultimate price. I will admit, initially I wasn't like super hyped about Jade, and I was kind of iffy about her. However, even though Jade has only been out for less than a week at the moment of recording, I have to admit that she has grown on me a lot, and I've started to like her character more and more as the days went by, especially because I started doing more investigation for this video. Not to mention the fact that her gameplay was like way more fun than I could have possibly imagined, because there's something great about watching Herta, Himiko, and Jade essentially perform a Super Mario and Luigi combo, like, you know, from like one of those like old RPG games. Maybe it's just like a silly little way to compare it, but like that's how I see it, and it makes me laugh, so therefore it just makes it play that character incredibly fun for me. Additionally, Jade is a character that's actually filled with mountains of flavor design that I'm actually scared to see how long this video is going to be by the end of the recording time. So I'm scared for that, and we're just starting off. That being said though, no, I'm like really excited to go over like details, references, and everything that I could like find, or even things that I make assumptions of based on the information that I've gathered. So yeah, I'm just eager to start going over them. But yeah, with that being said, throughout this video, I wish to explore Jade's character design, going over her gameplay, flavor design, and the impact that she has had on the story. For more information on these categories, please feel free to check out my video on starrail's best designed characters, where I go more in depth on these topics and even give out fleshed out explanations on them and give out examples for both good and bad designs in my personal opinion. In terms of gameplay, we have anything related to the combat system within starrail. This would include attacks, ultimates, skills, synergies, passive abilities, while on the other hand, something like flavor design would be mostly related to things that are not in combat, such as animations, voice lines, the aesthetics, even things such as like the visuals of things. So personally, this is something that I am very biased on, and the thing that I give most weight. So do take what I say with a grain of salt. And last but not least, we have impact, which is anything related to the story as a whole. So it would be how relevant they were to the Trailblaze mission, to the world building itself, maybe how relevant they were to the character building of another like playable character, another NPC, or vice versa. Maybe another playable character, another NPC had a big influence on Jade. So yeah, with all that being out of the way and explained, let us see why Jade is perfectly designed. In the world of business and economics, having a good business partner and connections is incredibly important. It's a key element for success. So it is not surprising that Jade's skill, Acquisition Surety, allows her to pick a partner to join her endeavors, given the selected target the Depth Collector buff, which increases their speed by 30 and allows Jade to do additional damage to all enemies that are hit by the Depth Collector. Additionally, the Depth Collector does get to drain 2% of their max HP whenever they take an action. But, in all honesty, that is a small price to pay for the amount of power that they're able to receive from Jade herself whenever they give them this debuff. It is also important to note that Jade literally makes a contract with the Depth Collector, which I personally find to be incredibly in flavor for her design, as their contracts are essentially legally binding to the terms of conditions. And in all honesty, it's just great because throughout the entire process, you cannot remove the Depth Collector buff until either the contract expires, which if I recall correctly is in 3 terms, or the character dies. So it's just really cool that they kind of have a signed contract that both parties have essentially agreed upon, and talk about setting a deal in stone. Speaking of contracts, though, I do love the fact that the Debt Collector takes damage. Not only because, well, as we know, Jade's powers work in this whole like exchange system, but also because it just gives the feeling of you have signed in blood this contract, making it that much like serious and much harder to actually get out of. So it being as strict as it is just, in all honesty, really cool. And while I am aware that the animation itself of Jade using the skill, it's kind of like her signing it with her lipstick, it feels more like the selected ally is signing it in blood, given the fact that they do take damage whenever they take an action. And also, something that is just like absolutely perfect in the way that her kit has been designed is just that you are forced to renew her contract in order to gain that strength back for your team. So, in all honesty, the flavor is just all over the place because this is literally just Jade's personality. Like, you are forced to go back over and over and over again in order to actually keep retaining this power. And we know that Jade wants people to keep coming back. She doesn't want them to be freed from her grasp. And this also is something that I do adore. The fact that like Jade is forced to use her basic attacks because this makes her incredibly skill point efficient. As a matter of fact, every single Stoneheart so far has been really stone efficient. Not stone efficient, skill point efficient. Topaz, sometimes you only need to use her basic attack because it already counts as a follow-up attack. If you really want to do more damage, it's possible, but I feel like more often than not, I just swap targets whenever I use her skill. And Aventurine, more often than not, I'm not actually replenishing the shield because I end up getting the stacks to just replenish it through the passive ability. So, I don't know, it's something that I just noticed and like it just popped into my mind and I absolutely love that. Something that I also want to add further on about Jade's kit is that I do have to admit that I have learned to adore like just like the small little details that they have given to both her ultimate and her passive abilities. Because to start things off, right, the fact that this woman literally has the actual stamp or like an actual seal in the sole of her heels is absolutely insane. And seeing that symbol not only appear on the animation of her ultimate, but also have it glow up is absolutely wild. Like, I'm not like into these sort of things, but like legitimately speaking, seeing that as being, yeah, no, like we're legally binding you right now, the enemies, into this contract for you to perish is actually super cool. And I hate it because, again, legitimately, I didn't think I would like this character as much as I'm enjoying them right now. And again, the more that I've been analyzing them, I'm just like, huh, that's actually really freaking cool. Every single Stoneheart so far has been done incredibly amazing, and I cannot wait for whenever I do like a Topaz video because I'm like also writing so many notes about Topaz. especially with like everything that has been recently happening. But we're getting away from the topic because I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, if you can't tell. But additionally, right, not only is like the ultimate very flavorful, but like the follow-up attack that you get from whatchamacallit, the passive ability is also just amazing because it synergizes with the stacks that she gains called pawned assets that are, in my opinion, just like the cherry on top for Jade's kit, given that this is kind of like a way that she's able to not only use her business concepts into her own kit, but also have this growth throughout battle. Similarly to how like Argenti was able to like stack up, the fact that Jade can stack up to 50 times, first of all, blows my mind, but secondly, again, it just feels incredibly flavorful. Being able to be like, hey, from now on, we are going to be gaining more value because we as a business are gonna make a profit and we're gonna rock this shit up, right? So overall, just like having that investment, so to speak, is incredibly cool for longer fights. And obviously, this is what makes her incredibly broken for things such as pure fiction. Also, additionally, because I just realized that I skipped it from my notes, in the ultimate animation, you also have all the enemies being essentially sucked into a hole before Jade's snake appears and like consumes them, and having that essential animation of like, hey, you have signed a contract with me, now prepare to face the consequences. That is incredibly cool, and I vibe with that a lot, and I cannot wait to get more in depth about the snake in the next segment. Alright, now that we have gone over Jade's kit, it is time to dive deep into madness. It is time to go over more information. And in all honesty, I feel like it would be an absolute sin if we didn't talk about all the mythological and biblical aesthetics, as well as like the references that are visible within Jade's character. Starting things off with her splash art. Something that we can immediately see is a soon-to-be dead man reaching out towards Jade, potentially in hopes of obtaining some sort of mercy after having made one too many deals with her. Like, at some point, these start stacking up and they will take a toll on you. You can see that there are a lot of precious items on the ground. There's jewels all over the place. But more importantly, you can see there's a lot of blood. As a matter of fact, there's so much blood that I didn't think that this was blood. I thought this was a red carpet that Jade was just happening to walk down a set of stairs. No, this is just this man absolutely dying. On top of that, right, from this man's body, you see a purple aura being essentially emitted that ends up doing the form of the snake, of this. I almost said snake, of Snape, of the snake. And in all honesty, I feel like that's really like a really cool detail. And this might just be me theorizing and overthinking, but it kind of feels like this snake is made out of the people's wills and desires, like their own greed, their sins, their delusions of grandeur. Like this snake that essentially Jade controls feeds off of like a person's greed, right? And the more people that it consumes, the bigger it grows, the stronger it grows. And it kind of fits really well with like the whole, you know, passive ability that Jade has in combat where she gets stronger the more she attacks, the more enemies that appear. So now that I'm looking at it, I'm really liking this. On top of that, right, like going back to the snake, we actually see this snake holding onto an apple that is literally bleeding into a contract. Like, if you needed more of a vision of being signed in blood, that's literally the biggest telltale sign. And I just personally adore the fact that an apple was used for this, not only for the biblical references that I'm gonna be definitely going into a little bit later, but also because I like the idea of relating this to the golden apple of Discord. Like that whole story of like Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera going to, I forgot, like it was Paris, like the guy from Troy, And it was like, oh hey, like, you know, choose between the three goddesses. One will give you love, one will give you wisdom, and one will give you power. And to a certain extent, all these are references to the apple, and this all of these are things that you can easily relate to Jade as well. So having a sort of bargaining chip and sort of exchange between the goddesses in Greek mythology sounds just very fitting for Jade herself as a whole. But actually, moving on, we're going to be going into the biblical things, and this is what I'm most excited about. In Jade's splash art, we can see that there is a tree in the background that combines perfectly with the aforementioned apple and snake elements of her design. And if by this point this isn't screaming Adam and Eve to you, then I really do not know what will. But I do want to mention this because I specifically love the imagery that this portrays, especially due to the position and the role that like Jade holds within the IPC and within the 10 Stone Hearts. As not only she part of, you know, like the strategy development team, but she's also sort of like a recruiter, right? She goes out and is able to enlist people by kind of blackmailing them slash getting them into contracts that they're not going to be able to escape from, right? And we can kind of see this through Topaz and Aventurine. Because in Topaz's case, she is her junior. She's the one that like works under her, or better than like she is the mentor to Topaz. While in Adventurine's case, she literally picked him up. She saw her, she saw that Aventurine fought for his life, killed his previous master because he was a slave, and was like, "Would you like to work for me? You don't really have another choice because it's either that or you die." So the fact that she's able to just rally people to her cause, it's really interesting. Like she's not the head, but she's definitely someone that's really influential within the IPC. And in all honesty, right? Like because we know that Topaz and Aventurine didn't really have like the best childhoods and like the best upbringings. This kind of this is gonna sound weird, but I don't really know how to phrase it. But this makes me speculate and hope that Jade also didn't really have the best upbringing, and she had to make one of these quote unquote deals to join the IPC, not really because she wanted to, but because she needed to survive. And that could lead to some like interesting narratives, I feel. All right, so we're going to be moving forward in this segment with the theory that Jade could have had no other choice but to join the IPC. And one, because I have a few things to back this up, but also because I do feel like this does fit the narrative and the interesting parallels that we can see between her story and that of the snake and that of Eve in the Bible. And when you kind of look at it, right, before Jade had control over the cornerstone, this cornerstone either just existed like normal or somebody else was wielding it, and it is very likely that Jade had to go through it in order to be accepted. So, to a certain extent, she could have been one of the victims that had to suffer through the curse of this cornerstone before actually gaining ownership of it. And now, she's essentially using these powers to make others suffer the same fate, if not worse, than she had. To a certain extent, it's, hey, look, you got tempted by the snake, now you gave the forbidden fruit to someone else, dooming them to what you are doomed to. I don't know. Maybe I'm coping the hell out of my mind out of that, but I do find it to be really cool. And as I said before, right, like she is Topaz's mentor. She is the one that like brought Aventurine into the Stone Hearts. So I just feel like it's definitely out there, right? And something that I do adore is Jade's voice line that is something to share.
The IPC is full of talented people, but only a handful can stand out from the crowd. Sometimes, I keep an eye out on behalf of Diamond, picking from all the ores the few with the most potential.
Like, literally from this voice line, we can kind of see that Jade is someone that potentially is hunting to recruit new Stonehearts, because she even calls it as, hey, like, there's a lot of talent within the IPC, and I do keep an eye out for people that might be interesting to Diamond, and I'm gonna be picking from all of these ores those that are like more valuable. And her seeing people as ores just is quite interesting, because it's essentially saying, hey, you're just a regular mineral, you're a diamond in the rough, potentially. Well, not a diamond in the rough, because like diamond is unique, right? Every single stone heart is unique, but like they're saying like you are a precious stone. Somewhere deep in there might be one, and I'm gonna try to get it out of you. And some people it's just like, hey, we just need your resources, we're gonna grind the hell out of you until you cease to exist. And that's essentially just going to be your life. You're not really useful to us. We're going to make a profit out of you, but at the end of the day, there's nothing of worth when we're done with you. And that literally does kind of fit the mentality of how Jade has been operating throughout the entire story. Heck, to add to this entire concept, right, of like Jade recruiting people, we can see this in Jade's character story 1. And she literally recruits people into the IPC whenever she does her trades. Literally, you see this exchange happening where she offers to save this person's entire galaxy. Mind you, galaxy. That's like insane, because I didn't imagine that a Stoneheart could potentially have this sort of power. In exchange for their eternal servitude. They're like, oh no, yeah, like, listen, I'm gonna help you save your planet. In exchange, though, you're gonna work for the IPC. You will be our main person in the galaxy. So we're gonna appoint you as the one in charge. And yeah, essentially, you work for us now. I don't know. That just it's really dark. But it's also incredibly in character. But the reason why, right? I'm saying that there might be a soft side to Jade, and there might be some trauma there too, is because of all the messages that I was getting from Jade after having pulled for her. You know, like those daily messages? Today I finally got the last one, and it definitely shows that Jade has a soft spot for children. And I remember in one of these like dialogue boxes, you can say like, oh, I believe that like children should just be like living worry free, without any woes, without any concerns. And like she says like, no, yeah, that's literally what I think. That's what Aventurine thinks. That's what Topaz thinks. And she mentions how she goes to orphanages, plural, right? And she cares for the people there. She takes care of the children. She makes sure they're okay. She probably donates to them, which is, again, absolutely crazy. And she mentions like oh yeah, you know, like children have done nothing wrong. They're still innocent. Adults though should be held accountable, and they need to be dealt with in a more strict manner. And I'm just like, interesting. Because it's like, my guess is Jade had to have suffered something traumatic regarding adults when she was younger for her to massively hate adults like this, right? For her to just be like, no, there's no redemption. Either you're good or you're bad. And if you're too greedy, you're just dead, right? But that's just a theory. A game theory. I had to do that. I don't know. I just, every single time that I'm like saying that's just a theory, I'd like, words. Anyways, moving on. But also, real quick, doubling back for a second, right? Going to the whole snake, the Bible comparison. I think that one of the, like, not necessarily obvious examples, but like something that is a really good example of this can be seen within the 2.3 Trailblaze mission. And it happens while we're playing as Firefly, where we see that Jade made a deal with a Pepeshi who yearned for love, and this Pepeshi gave up all of his riches in order to be able to conquer and like essentially captivate. I'm not sure what the word I'm like trying to find here, but like to successfully try to win over another Pepeshi girl, right? And through this, he gave up everything to the point that he literally is going to get kicked out of Penacony. Which, when you look at it, right, Penacony is known as Land of Dreams. Some people call it literally paradise, literally heaven for them, because it's where anything could happen. So, Jade literally got someone kicked off of the perfect paradise. And that is just wild. Something else that I do want to add is that this this character might also have things to do with like Lilith from from mythology as well, but I'm not like super well versed on this topic and like on this like character. I do recall a few things like Lilith having potentially some snake elements, to even having been potentially the person that orchestrated the whole giving the apple to Eve, like putting the snake in there and everything. I am, however, not 100% sure, and as such, I would rather not make like wrong assumptions, but I do want to leave this as like a little bit of extra input. And if you do know more about this topic, or you have any ideas to how this could relate to Jade, by all means, I do encourage you to leave it down in the comments. I love reading through them, and it's honestly a little fun being able to discuss with you guys. So, yeah. And finally, I know we've been talking about a lot of regarding like the biblical snake, but I do want to go real quick over other snake-like elements that aren't really that biblical snake, just like regular snake aesthetics. And it is that there really is a lot actually, such as, you know, her whip whenever she attacks has like the shape of the skin of the snake, which I personally think is absolutely wonderful. I remember seeing, I believe in like one of her like icons for one of her like traces. I believe it was her, I want to say it was her technique, but it literally shows like serpent's kiss. And that is actually so fitting, especially given the fact that Jade uses lipstick, so that double further goes into this like concept. And her signing with lipstick, just even more venomous. The purple colors, of course, colors of poison, things that are associated with snakes. The fact that the Debt Collector takes damage whenever they do an action, again, very reminiscent of poison, which I think it's honestly pretty cool. And overall, it's just amazing. But what I do like about everything regarding Jade, not only is her character, but also how well they made it so that she runs her business at Bonajade Exchange. Bonajade Exchange isn't just a pawn shop that Jade runs, which can make wishes come true. It is a whole franchise. Bonajade Exchange literally exists in many parts of the universe because, as we learn in Penacony, she sets up a branch in Penacony, in the Radiant Feldspar, which implies that there are many more stores that she doesn't necessarily run personally, but that she owns, which is absolutely wild. And we get to see this once again throughout the 2.3 storyline, and we even get to see 3 different exchanges. Actually 4, but we're gonna focus first on the 3 that we see while we play in Firefly's point of view. And these are, in my opinion, just incredibly smart and really well made, that it just feels like really interesting. The first one we have is the aforementioned Pepeshi that traded his riches for the gift in order to win his crush's heart. In theory, this is just material traits for material traits. He gave up his wealth for a material item that the Pepeshi girl would like. We also had an Intellitron who was a detective that ended up giving up his memory core in order to trade information to be able to capture a fugitive of the law. Something that I do find to be kind of noble, because he's essentially sacrificing himself to finally put this person to rest, but at the same time it's really messed up. And when you really look at it, it's an exchange of knowledge for knowledge. He learned the knowledge he needed in order to fulfill his duty, and as such, to now that he's accomplished, he gets to give up the knowledge that he has acquired through his entire existence, which also is really screwed up, because now he will no longer remember him being able to capture this person to finally put an end to all of this pain and suffering. He's not even going to remember who he is. I like this Intellitron because it's really just very altruistic. He gave up his existence as an individual for the greater good. It's horrifying, but yeah, this like exchange of knowledge for knowledge is really interesting. Lastly, though, we have the gambling addict, this lady that traded essentially all of her relationships, past, present, and future, for impossibly good luck. And I want to say luck in between like speech marks, because I don't think it's just magic that happened, right? I feel like this is more of a trade of reputation, if that makes sense. Because the moment that she became the luckiest gambler alive, she probably got some sort of like cheater, scammer label added onto her. Jade even mentions that the moment that that lady stepped out, every casino would know of her, implying that she probably has power over a lot of people, of course, because, you know, the IPC is the IPC. But, like, she probably added this person into, like, some sort of database that the casinos know that they should rig the game for in their favor. But now everybody's gonna know them as someone that's a scammer, that cheats in these games, that... Because, you know, like, when you are playing with... When the game is in your favor, these, like, games that you wager in, that's unethical. That's 100% unethical. So it would be no surprise that this is how this person ends up losing all of these friendships, all of these close connections that she has nearby. And mind you, she doesn't say that she can no longer make friends. She mentioned, like Jade mentions, that she has lost the ability to make a real connection. Meaning that anybody that approaches her in the future is probably just going to be there for the money that she's scamming people with. And that is incredibly scary, right? However, we're not done with all the trades. We also had one more at the very end of the story, which was Robin's exchange. We don't really know the specific details of what went on, but we can make a few assumptions, because it had to be an exchange equivalent to Sunday's freedom. And I feel like this is likely tied up with her hurried departure from penacony. My personal guess is that she's giving up her lifestyle in order to restore his brothers. She gives up her normal freedom in order for her brother to walk like a free man again. And that's, again, this might just be me overthinking a bit too much, right? Because we don't really see Robin after she quote unquote departs. We do see her in like that mini game with the origami birds. Kind of odd details, but she has to be an incognito, and as far as we know, she cancelled every single concert, meaning that like she's no longer allowed to sing as the fashion icon Robin herself. So she's giving up this image of her lifestyle in order for her brother to survive, to be free. Again, I might just be like going way overboard, but I think that that is really like just an interesting concept and really speaks volumes of how much power Jade potentially has, in all honesty. However, I do want to add a little bit of extra detail to all of these exchanges, right? Because something that I do adore is that Jade runs a pawn shop, right? So people are able to buy back or trade their collateral in order to repay their debt. If they no longer want to be indebted, they can just ask for it back and give back the collateral in some scenarios. But it's kind of interesting because Jade even mentions, oh, like there's people that have like requested my services, accomplished what they wanted, and then decided to trade back. However, you can't really scam Jade that easily. People might think that they're able to, but it's not that simple. As Jade remarks in her redemption voice line, it says the following.
I don't mind if customers buy back their collateral after they accomplish what they want, but I'll propose an even better alternative to them. A way to make them go further and climb higher at a small price. Guess what they choose in the end?
In here, Jade literally mentions how she entices people to keep returning, to keep buying more power, more favors, more wealth, more everything until eventually they just have given way too much of their just existence to the point that they succumb to her powers, potentially being turned into an actual gemstone, as hinted in the whatchamacallit, that like trailer that she had with that man and like her hobbies voice line, which in my opinion is just like incredibly dark. Like just like listen to it with like that constant what with like the context of the video in mind.
Rather than collecting jewels that have already been shaped, I'm more fascinated by the process of turning an unrefined stone into a precious gem.
I am aware that I might be overthinking that, but it's something that definitely has been stuck in my mind, and that makes me really concerned about what kind of character Jade is. However, that's not the only thing that we have to talk about regarding Bonajade Exchange, because we did get a web event recently where we actually get to work at Bonajade Exchange as temporary partners to Jade, and I personally found it really intriguing. I'm not gonna lie, I did feel kind of scummy, essentially bargaining, negotiating with characters that we see throughout the game. I feel like I was scamming them. So I don't know, especially because like on the side you had like Jade essentially giving you sort of like pointers, whether like what should you do, what should you pick. It's like, oh hey, like you can probably push for a lower price. You can probably push, it's like this person's like a bit nervous. Maybe try not to go too low. It was interesting, but also again concerning because we're working with Jade to essentially scam our friends, and I did not vibe with that. That being said, when I saw Aventurine in that like event, I was like, you know what? I want to help Aventurine because I know that he doesn't really like Jade that much. So the first offer that he gave me, I'm like, you got it, bro. I don't really care. You're just gonna be lucky today that you have me here as the person in charge. So, boom. Not even gonna negotiate. Just gonna give you what you demand. And what pisses me off, right, is that Jade said, "You know what? I respect your generosity." I'm like, "Hold on a minute. What?" I was hoping that like she would get like angry, disappointed. I wanted to give Aventurine the satisfaction of having won against Jade, but that didn't even happen. So I'm just like, what the heck? On the other hand, we had Topaz, that I feel like I had to play along for her because like Jade has taught everything she knows. Well, not necessarily everything, but like a lot of things to Topaz. So I'm glad that I was right in doing like a lot of bargaining because she's like, oh yeah, this is all part of like the 3-step plan. So like I'm following Lady Jade's like teachings. I'm like, you know what? Good on ya. I still got more money. So I don't know. I thought it was really neat. Also, just as a quick little extra side note, I did like the fact that the loading screen was like the serpent's kiss image. So cool detail, love it. And yeah, just Bonajade Exchange, really cool concept. But yeah, hey, it looks like you've made it through a decent chunk of the video. Hello, how are you doing? I just realized this video is 40 minutes long at the moment of recording. What the heck? I am concerned, but you know what? If you're enjoying this sort of content and you wish to see more, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, and I'm hoping that you won't regret it. But hey, if you ever feel like I'm not really producing quality to content, or you feel like I'm not really doing my best, maybe you got bored of this content, right? You're more than welcome to unsubscribe. I really want to make content that y'all can enjoy, and if I'm not delivering this content to you guys, that's perfectly reasonable. I do want to say that I'm very thankful that we are very close to reaching 2,500 subscribers. Absolutely insane that we are 1/4 of 10,000. Just blows my mind away. I cannot thank you guys enough for this community that we're building, and I absolutely love having discussions about lore, about design, about like anything with you guys, because it's really just a lot of fun. So yeah, I just want to say like a quick thank you. I really want to say this little quick intermission to be grateful to all of you. And yeah, back onto the video. I feel like this next point really goes without saying, but we can all pretty much see that Jade has elements of a dominant woman, like in every sense of the word. Like legitimately, the amount of people that went crazy over that one scene with Topaz and Jade was so goddamn high, and people were literally just losing their minds. Like legit, like I remember seeing a lot of like comics, memes of Jade calling Topaz by her actual name, Yelena. And in all honesty, that was like such a cool scene. But also, I felt so bad because Nambi got scared, and I trust Nambi in every possible way. If Nambi's terrified, I know I am meant to be terrified. Like, also, you know, add on to this, right? The fact that like not only is she like having these traits, but they definitely wrote her as like a femme fatale sort of character. I'm not sure if I'm like saying that properly, but I know that again it is incredibly scary and people lose their minds over these kinds of things. I mean, literally, she has the animation where she steps on the camera and you have her looking incredibly fancy with like this rich as hell like outfit. She has like this cane that becomes a goddamn whip, and that is absolutely horrifying, and she essentially beats enemies up. So heck, if all of this wasn't enough, you also have her actual trailer where she just had all her employees overworked, for lack of a better term. Like, you literally see the employees sweating through their armor. And I know that it is meant to be exaggerated because they're not meant to be actually able to sweat through their armor, but like, just take it in a literal sense. That is horrifying if we look at it in a literal point of view. And I think that's awesome. Scary, but like awesome. However, I do want to step away from those things at the current moment, because I want to focus on some things that could potentially be seen as positive regarding Jade. And as many of you probably have figured out, is the fact that she is able to visit many orphanages across the galaxy, and she helps out the people here. Like, in fact, the orphanage workers and the kids adore her and even look up to her. Some even say that they want to become just like her. And in the light cone, it literally says, yes, I want to become like you, someone who brings light and hope to others. And mind you, I just love the context of that line, because when you look at the whole thing, right before this person is asking, like, you want to become just like me, I feel like there had to be some sort of sadness behind that, like, question. There had, like, Jade knows that she doesn't do the most morally right things, and she probably can justify it, right? But I feel like deep down, there has to be some sort of, like, shred of morality hiding that she doesn't want to show because, you know, the more, like, the way that her job is. So I like that a lot. I know that, like, Jade wants children to thrive, but also she's kind of the person that says that adults need to be dealt with strictly. They know how the world works, they know how the world operates, and therefore punishment for them will always be strict. And something else just that I do want to add, again going back to the light cone, I just love the fact that this light cone is called Yet Hope is Priceless, which specifically for Jade just feels like the complete antithesis of how she works, of the way that she operates. Because we know Jade to be like this cold, calculating woman, sort of heartless to a certain extent, and one of her actual phrases is, everything has a price. Yet her light cone is called Yet Hope is Priceless. It kind of feels actually that as if it like rolls the two of them together, right? But this second part is an antithesis of the first thing that she's saying. So I want to assume that Jade does have some sort of like motherly instincts, like behind her actions and behind the person that she is. And I want to assume that this also extends to the way that she treats Topaz. I'm not sure if Aventurine. I'm hoping. Maybe she's just incredibly bad at it. But like, it definitely gives me the vibes of I wasn't raised to be able to do this properly. So me doing these vile actions is me trying to support you, which is incredibly fucked up. It's awful, but I feel like she's trying. And this is I had to re-record this segment because the new Mirror's Lestia trailer came out, and you see Jade actually backing up Aventurine and giving out every possible like argument for whatchamacallit, for him to be not exiled, right? She goes like and says like, hey, like, we always value results, and Aventurine delivered more than delivered. He literally gave us the vote from one of the 7 board members. So like he giga excelled, right? I don't know. I just feel like there has to be something in there from Jade, even though I really don't want this character to be redeemable, because I do want characters that are 100% redeemable. I do find it cool to find like these hints that are like, yeah, no, like they're not redeemable, but they do have somewhat good intentions, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like explaining myself weirdly, but it is something that just has been bothering my mind the more I've been looking at it even further. Okay, so now this next segment of the video is done to start wrapping things up, and we're gonna be going a little bit of rapid fire through some miscellaneous details that I wasn't sure where to exactly put them or how to exactly like expand further upon, but I still found to be interesting nonetheless. And starting things off, we have Jade's Eidolons, which are kind of odd because they are kind of phrased in the way of like a business question followed up by a sort of vague but still important answer. right? And in here we have the following Eidolons. Eidolon 1, altruism, nevertheless tradable. We then have Eidolon 2, morality, herein authenticated. And here's where it starts getting a bit more interesting. We have Eidolon 3, which is honesty, soon to be mortgaged. And it shows Jade having a sort of chess piece ready to put the final nail in the coffin, right? Following up, we have sincerity, put option only. I feel like this, I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm guessing it's like more optional. And the Eidolon shows her giving a sort of death glare at the screen, which I think it's kind of concerning. The next one is hope, hereto forfeited. And at first, it might seem a bit confusing, but I do like this particular image for this Eidolon because, for context, I don't remember exactly where it was. I think it was in one of the messages actually that you get, one of the daily messages. But Jade speaks about the necklace that she has, where she has this particular jade jewelry from a planet that they requested her help, and she was like, "No, I can't really help you." But she had jewelry from that planet, and now this like item is essentially one of the rarest of its kind because that planet got completely destroyed, and this is one of the few items that actually exist from this planet's history. And that is kind of super fucked up, in all honesty. I'm very concerned just when I heard that story, but it doesn't get dark yet because, heck, we have Eidolon 6, which is equity pending sponsorship. And this Eidolon, I think it's quite interesting because it shows Jade, but like through the eye of her serpent. And I always thought this to be like the most interesting because from what I understand, right? Eidolon 6 shows the characters with no clothes because it's supposed to be like when they are at like their most vulnerable, right? And showing Jade being most vulnerable but still being supervised by the snake is kind of horrifying. And this is also something that like fuels my brain into thinking that yes, Jade has control over the snake, but to a certain extent, if she doesn't feed the snake is gonna feed off of her. And that is scary. Another fun little fact that we can add onto Jade is the fact that Sparkle is low-key afraid of Jade. Like literally, if we listen to her voice line about Jade, we hear the following.
She's like a puppeteer. It's as if people aren't people in her eyes. That kind of person is the most terrifying. But I can't help but want to work with her again and again. Why? Because I am also that kind of person.
In here, we see that she refers to her as someone that is terrifying, but at the same time, someone that she is eager to work with again. And I don't know, I feel like it kind of implies that if even Sparkle has to be wary of Jade, then like there's gotta be a lot of things to be concerned of. Heck, she even calls her Jade the Great Manipulator in the following voice line.
Open your eyes and behold Lady Jade, the Great Manipulator.
Additionally, someone else that does fear Jade, and that we see once again in the 2.3 storyline, is Numby, our poor little sweet trotter. And I feel so bad seeing Numby be scared because they literally are so adorable and so nice. And I don't know, just like seeing Numby makes me so goddamn happy. I don't know, it's just I need more Numby in this world, and I definitely adored them in like the Bella Box story, right? And if I recall correctly, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that Numby was able to just travel around Bellabog without Topaz there to like deliver messages when needed. meaning that like he is comfortable around humans, but like in particular, he saw like they saw Jade, immediately went into hiding. Numbi did not know what to do, and that's perfectly understandable. And I'm down to believe, like, you know, what Numbi feels, especially because trotters are known, like warp trotters are known to be incredibly smart. Like when you see them escape, they do like the whole like mathematical equations shenanigans. Like they're packing a big brain. They have a big noggin, right? So I'm just horrified by that. And last but not least, just a quick little detail. I just thought it was incredibly funny that Owlbert became literal stone in Jade's episode of Keeping Up with Starrail. You know, get turned into stone in the Snake Ladies episode. I'm not sure if she might actually have some sort of like Medusa like references, but I really couldn't find them. But I think it would be funny if we end up seeing things like that. Anyways, yeah. Oh well, we have finally reached the end of this video, and I'm not gonna lie. I remember when I was like, oh yeah, no, I want to try to make this video be not so long. I want to aim for this to be around 40 minutes, and here I am, perhaps over explaining a lot of things at minute 55, 56 actually. And I'm even like inflating it more by just like telling you guys a story. No, but like legitimately, I'm having a lot of fun doing the research, investigating. I may be over explaining, so I do have to get better at that. Like, you know, concise things better. But I do enjoy being able to talk with you guys about these things. I enjoy being able to overanalyze the hell out of this game. And I know that I might be yapping, perhaps way too much, but hey, if you have stuck all the way up to this point into the video, first of all, you're an absolute legend. I really appreciate you. You're insane. And I really do want to thank you for subscribing. Not for subscribing, for watching. And I would appreciate it if you could subscribe. It's also giga late at night when I'm like recording this. So, apologies. The EP-ness is catching up to me. But again, making these videos is legitimately so much fun. So yeah, I'm just real quick, I want to say, hey, if you enjoy this sort of content, please be sure to subscribe. It's free, it only takes a second. It really helps out the channel, helps out with the algorithm, yada yada yada. I also want to say real quick that I'm grateful that about 18% of you guys that are watching are subscribed. So once again, like that number is like way higher than I feel like I would ever expect. So it warms my heart. And yeah, I hope that you'll have an amazing rest of your day, night, morning, whatever time zone applies to you. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.